In this lecture, we will look at how browsers parse and render or display the web page to the user, and how does that impact where to write the JavaScript code. To understand this, we must know some important components of a web browser. Now, here is a link to a great talk by Tali Garcial, and I suggest that you read it and watch the talk, because we will not cover the inner workings of a browser in detail, but we will mainly focus on a couple of aspects. Alright, let me start off with test4.html. I have made a copy of that file. One change that I did here is that I am setting the source attribute of the image to the first picture in the pictures array, and then starting the slideshow from the second picture onwards. If you load this page in the browser, what do you see? We see the first picture, but the slideshow starts immediately from the second picture onwards. So we see the second picture immediately, alright? And the slideshow is getting triggered by the body's load event, which occurs when the web page is completely loaded, which means that by now all objects in the document are in the DOM, and all images and subframes have also loaded. Let's put an error dialog box inside the load function as the first statement. And now let's refresh the page. If you notice, the alert dialog box comes up only after the image has been loaded on the page. Alright? That is, the image content has been fetched through the specified URL. So the load event occurs when all images and subframes, if any, they are loaded. Now let's remove the onload attribute from the body. If we reload the page, what do you think should happen? You can pause the video here, look at the code, and then answer. Well, if we reload the page, of course we see the first image, but the slideshow doesn't start. And that is because the slideshow is started by calling the changePic function. But that function is now never getting called, isn't it? So let me just put the changePic function call as the last statement inside the script tag. So now what do you think? Will the slideshow start? Let's check. And if we reload the page and wait a little, you can see that the slideshow didn't start. So there must have been some error somewhere. So let's open the JavaScript console, and we can see that there is an error, and the error says cannot read property get elements by tag name of null, which means that JavaScript is trying to read a property with this name of some null object. So let's look at the code. And because when the script was parsed and this changePic method called, inside this method we are calling this method. But the error shows that this image canvas object itself is null. But we do have it in our HTML. So how is it null? Well, the issue is that the script got loaded before the image canvas element into the DOM. So right now it is null. But when the page will be fully loaded into the DOM, the image canvas element will be available. Alright? So we need to write our JavaScript code such that the DOM is loaded before we can start manipulating it. So now let's understand how is the DOM loaded. The DOM parser starts parsing the HTML document almost as soon as it starts getting the document bytes. That is, it doesn't wait for the whole document to come through the network before the parsing begins. Also, to give a good user experience, browsers start rendering those elements which have been completely parsed even before they are done with the whole document. Also, note that the JavaScript code is immediately executed by the browser as soon as the script tag is encountered. So in our example, this script tag came before the body element, hence the script inside it was executed even before the body element was parsed. Let me just make a little change to the script and let me log document.body at the end of the script. And if we reload the page, as expected, the body element is null at the point it was logged on the console. But the script need not be just inside the head element. It can also be put inside the body element. Also, notice that JavaScript libraries are sometimes quite large, so it takes some time to load these. So one of the good practices used to be to put your script tag at the end of your body, right before the end tag of the body element. And that is because the users visiting your page can at least see the page sooner, because the DOM till that time will get parsed and painted on the browser. So let me just move our script inside the body. And also uncomment the change pick function call. Now let's reload the page. And as you can see that document.body has an object and the slideshow starts working. There is another attribute associated with the script tag named differ, but this doesn't work for internal JavaScript code, but only for external JavaScript files. So let me first cut the code and paste it into another file. And save it in the same directory as the HTML file. Now let me move the script back to the head and use the src attribute to refer to the external JavaScript file. If you reload the page right now, you will get the same error that we got before. But if we use the defer attribute, then things change a little. The defer attribute tells the browser that this script is not to be run until the page has been loaded. So in case one wants to run a script which manipulates the DOM, you can keep it inside the head element, but use the defer attribute to execute the script later. HTML5 has introduced another attribute named async, which is meant to hint the browser that this script is to be executed asynchronously without blocking the parsing of the DOM, alright? And this attribute is also available only for external JavaScript files and not for internal JavaScript code. The point is that when the browser is parsing the DOM and it encounters the script tag, an external script tag, it starts downloading the script and will end up running the script before moving on with the parsing process. But the async attribute tells the browser that you can download it and run it in the background without blocking the parsing process. So you will need to do that if you are sure that the script doesn't manipulate the DOM, because for that you should not run the script until the page is loaded. Most of the times, the async attribute is used for cases when you are using external libraries like jQuery. But then calling the jQuery library methods should be done after the DOM is loaded. So I think you need to play around a little to make sure that you understand how and when is your JavaScript getting executed. But this should give you a good background on how do you start JavaScript code execution in your web page.